I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item C, adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, Mrs. Thomas, I have a number of adjustments to recommend to the board for the agenda. One is to add a first read of policies to become item number 4 and renumber previous items 4 and 5 to 5 and 6. And also add as item number 7 under new business, ratification of a negotiated agreement between the Ellsworth School Board and the Ellsworth School Department custodians. And move the negotiations update to item number 8.
I make a motion to adjust the agenda as follows and recommended by the superintendent. Add first read of policies number 4 and renumber previous 4 and 5 to 5 and 6. Add ratification of negotiated agreement between the Ellsworth School Board and AFSCME Council 93 AFL-CO for the Ellsworth School Department custodians to number 7, and move negotiations update to number 8.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Item D, approval of minutes for June 12, 2018.
I move that we approve the minutes from the June 12, 2018 board meeting as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? 5-0. Item E, communication and correspondence.
There are a number of letters of resignation and retirement that have been distributed to the board, and I will take those up in my report.
Okay, thank you. Item F, public participation. Item G, administrative board reports.
Just to notify the board, we do have a number of administrators who are away this week, and their reports have been submitted to you in written format.
Ms. Gabinelli.
Good evening. On June 21st, EEMS celebrated the retirement of Judy Frazier, John McDonald, Doug Libby, Tracy Thurston, and Jim Newitt, and it was a beautiful tribute to their careers here in the Ellsworth School Department, and I wanted to thank the front office staff for organizing such a wonderful celebration to recognize their service. Summer school's off to a great start. In co-curricular news, we have a couple of vacant positions for the fall. We're looking for a B-boys soccer coach and a B-girls soccer coach. And I would encourage anyone who is interested in applying for these positions to do so, and the applications can be found on the website. And for parent news, I just want to thank all the parents for their support during the 2017-2018 school year, and I'm looking forward to a very exciting upcoming school year. Any questions? Great.
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bowles?
Good evening. Our 30 staff and students are back from Louisville. They had a whirlwind trip for a week to Louisville, and although none of them medaled, we got great compliments about how well behaved our students were at nationals at the hotel. They said it was like our school wasn't even there, so that was a great compliment to our kids. They got to do a lot of wonderful things. They spent the day where the Kentucky Derby is held and took a tour of that. They got to go to Kentucky Kingdom and go to the amusement park. They got to go on a boat ride and see sights of Kentucky. So they had a great week. But most importantly, they got to really coordinate and talk to a lot of other kids from a lot of other states interested in the same things that they are. They got to talk to a lot of industry reps and learn about different job opportunities across the country. So all in all, it was a very successful trip. And once again, HCTC wants to thank all of the communities in all of Hancock County who helped support us get them there for free. So thank you to everyone for that. We're excited to announce the MELMAC grant last year, or this past June, ended the way that it's formatted. and instead is launching a new CTE-specific grant. And we're happy to announce that we received one of the grants in the amount of $14,000. We'll receive $14,000 for the next 4 years, so through 2022, so that we can continue some of the activities that we've done connecting college aspirations to a plan for our CTE students. So we're very excited about that. At the end of the year, one of the big things that we focused on, that April and I had talked a lot about this past year with proficiency-based, was making industry standards more manageable in jump rope in our reporting system for parents and for our teachers. Because for the industry standards, for some, there are hundreds. So what's a more manageable way that we can report out on these standards in a meaningful way for teachers and parents? And so we spent the last couple of weeks, I met with each individual teacher and kind of brainstormed and looked at the standards and broke them down more and looked at their usage of jump rope this year and how we could tweak that for the fall. So we're hopeful that over the summer, we'll meet Rachel, April, and I to talk about each individual program, because every program's that different, to talk about how we can reformat that so that we're better utilizing this program. Finally, we're still interviewing for several positions. Very excited for you to meet our media instructor this evening. Very happy to have him come on board tonight. Very fortunate to get him, and we're hopeful to fill, we have 4 other positions we're still looking for. We're still looking for our auto diesel ed tech, early childhood ed tech, an academic ed tech, a math teacher, and I believe I'm going to get a letter of resignation for my CNA clinical supervisor. So we'll be advertising for that as well in the next couple of weeks. Any questions?
I know you've told us this before, but just could you remind us how many students went to Skills USA Nationals in Louisville?
Ooh, nationals this year, I'm not sure. It's close to 10,000.
I mean, how many students from here went?
Oh, 24.
24. And
24.
And how did that number compare with previous years?
That's the highest we've ever sent for us, and it's one of the highest, I think, in history of Maine.
Wow.
For 24 to go from one school. Yeah, that was astronomical that we took that many, and that we took that many staff. I mean, every year I get comments from directors. One staff member typically takes all kids from the school. It is very rare to get every single teacher that coached a kid to give up a week of their summer to go with their students. So
Yeah.
we're very fortunate. We had all 6 go.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's a testament to the school and the kids and the commitment of the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yep, it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The curriculum coordinator's report has been submitted in written form, so Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. First, I'd like to start off with, on behalf of the entire school department and with your permission, on behalf of the board, I'd like to express appreciation to all the citizens of Ellsworth for their overwhelming support of our school, as evidenced through the vote at the June budget validation referendum. If you looked at the results, it was a 2.5 to 1 margin in support of the schools. And that level of approval signifies that our community has confidence in our work and supports our efforts to ensure that we have a high-quality school system that provides students with the best possible academic and co-curricular opportunities. Along with that confidence and support, we do recognize and accept that we have a responsibility to ensure that we fulfill our vision and mission and support the continued growth and development of not only our schools, but play our role and responsibility in the growth of our community. But I think it's important that we do recognize our citizens for their support of our work. This next item I hesitated to put on the list in the month of July because we're talking about back to school. And I did have a conversation with Natalie Knox about, maybe it was a little bit early, but my wife Tammy and I were in town the other night and we saw in one of our local stores a lot of back to school supplies already. So I guess it's an appropriate piece. But mark your calendars for July 28th. This will be the annual Pack the Backpack promotion that has been sponsored for the last 3 years by Star 97.7 FM here in Ellsworth. It's going to run from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in front of Hannaford's this year. Not TJ Maxx as it has been in past years, but at Hannaford's. But as in past years, Star 97.7 FM will be doing a live broadcast of the promotion and will be accepting donations of school supplies, either already packed in backpacks, hence the name, Pack the Backpack, or loose to be packed in backpacks. As you know, it's been a successful promotion for the past several years. We look forward to it being a successful one again this year. Wanted to give board members an update on the Major Capital Improvement Program application. I believe you all may have received the formal notice that came out soon after our last board meeting, but for your benefit and for the benefit of the public. The evaluation report from the 2017-18 rating cycle of the MCIP program demonstrated that our application ranked 18th out of 74 applicants submitted statewide, with a score of 102.85 out of a possible 200 points. Now, while our score was ranked 18th out of 74, the point differential between the 18th spot and the 5th spot is less than 10 points. One of the things that is part of that process, is an opportunity to appeal your rating, which we're considering doing. But as a precursor to that, I'm scheduled to meet with Scott Brown and the Department of Education visiting team that they sent here earlier in the year to do an evaluation review of our score. So I'll be going down Thursday morning to review that rating sheet in detail and help determine if it's worth our while to submit an appeal. Now, the reason I want to make sure it's worth our while, an appeal requires that you demonstrate clear and convincing evidence that the visiting team made an error in what they saw on your application and what they saw when they came and did the visit. There's no sense to waste anybody's time by not having clear and convincing evidence, so I'm going to go down and ask all the questions on Thursday, and we'll see where that takes us. But one of the reasons for mentioning it, if you talk about a margin of 10 points, typically the projects that are in the top 8 to 12 on the list are the ones that get funded over the next 3 to 4 years. So we'll see where that takes us. There's still hope that we may get funding for a school. I have included a list of teacher nominations that I believe you'll take up when you get to that point on the agenda. But I would like to list for you two fairly lengthy lists. One would be letters of resignation, retirement that you just had a chance to review. One would be Kate Anderson, grade 2 teacher at EEMS. Robin Emery, Ed Tech 3 at EEMS, with over a 50-year career in education, has retired. Jude Masur, alternative education teacher at EHS. Melanie Ruark, English teacher at Ellsworth High School. Rebecca Silsby, Ellsworth High School English teacher and JV volleyball coach at the high school. Melinda Boynton, mathematics teacher at the high school. Sarah Brown, EEMS Ed Tech 3. Nikki Tibbetts, EEMS Ed Tech 3. Amanda Trigo, JV boys soccer at EEMS, and Megan Merrill, JV girls soccer at EEMS. The other list that I would like to mention, and Mrs. Bowles mentioned a couple of these, is the vacancies that we still have. Currently, and some of these are still in process, but they haven't been filled yet, so they're on the list. We're still looking for a mathematics teacher at Ellsworth High School, special education teacher at Ellsworth High School, a half-time physical education, half-time health teacher that's shared between Ellsworth High School and Ellsworth Middle School, licensed clinical social worker at EEMS, Section 504 teacher/case manager that will be shared between EHS and EMS, a grade 4, a grade 3, and a grade 2 teacher at EEMS, administrative assistants for the guidance department at Ellsworth High School, assistant principal athletic administrator at EMS, math teacher at Hancock County Technical Center, custodian for our second shift, auto diesel ed tech, early childhood ed tech, also at HCTC, an instructional technology support specialist for the school department. So for people who are looking for jobs in schools that are watching this evening, please get your applications in. And if you're not aware of what the applications are, call our office and we'll let you know. And we'd like to close tonight by just letting the board know that even though students are out for the summer, schoolwork still continues. The school department leadership team will convene for our annual 2-day workshop on July 16th and 17th. Included on our agenda will be a discussion of assessments of students, in particular looking at what the assessment is that's going to drive our work. And currently we're using 2 as a result of the Momentum pilot. We're going to be looking at a criteria on how we can best determine what the best assessment is. Development of a formal review for supplemental and technology-based resources. As you know, we have many resources that support teachers' work with students. We're looking to make sure that we have the most appropriate ones in the most appropriate places. Discussion of attendance and truancy protocols. As you know, the attendance reporting has had some issues across the state this year. Ellsworth is no exception to that. One of the things we identified that we wanted to talk about, which you'll also see when we talk about the comprehensive needs assessment that was recently completed, attendance is an area that we need to focus on. Professional development for the 2017-18 school year, a review of emergency management plans, along with using information obtained from the school safety forum that we held last spring, and an updating of student handbooks and other emerging topics. So we will be hearing more about that over the course of the summer. And that concludes my report, unless you have questions.
Thank you.
Stan?
Item H, committee reports. And I believe we're gonna talk about a couple of committees that met, like
Yep, the policy committee met.
policy and personnel. We'll talk about that
Mhm.
later. Okay. Item I, old business, none. J, new business, consideration of momentum program extension.
And we spoke with board members about this in a previous meeting, and we had signed an agreement, we thought, with the Department of Education. Turns out that they sent us another, more formal agreement that requires formal board approval and the signature of the board chair. So have included a copy of that memorandum of understanding in your packet. It's to extend that pilot for a one-year period. And I know there was a presentation on it. If there are any questions that members of the board have, certainly would entertain them at this time. But again, we all believe this is a good opportunity for the department for many reasons.
I move that we approve the Momentum Program extension as presented and recommended by the superintendent.
Second. Discussion?
Dan, I just had one question.
Mhm.
I read through, the, what you sent out, and there was, a section about our commitments and that we would do the NWEA.
Yes,
But
that's
just
correct.
the reading component?
That's correct.
Are we currently only doing the reading component?
That's correct.
Okay.
Since this pilot started, because it was a requirement of the pilot, we've been doing
Yep.
that with reading. And that's one of the reasons, to answer a little further, that we're looking at the most appropriate assessment for us. One of the big questions is, do we continue with NWEA, which a lot of our staff members like and find very useful compared to its previous iteration, or do we continue with iReady? And we're looking to develop a criteria that helps us determine over the course of the next year which is the most appropriate assessment.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0, thank you. Second read of amended policy.
I make a motion to approve the second read and adopt amended policy IKF, graduation requirements, as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Discussion.
I think, just to remind members of the public, the major change to this policy was an amendment to what is students need to take in terms of either credits under the current system or experiences under the proficiency-based diploma system. In particular, for their senior year, students who are not participating in co-curricular activities, instead of requiring the students are enrolled in 5 academic courses or 5 experiences, this lets them enroll in the courses or experience that they need to earn their diploma. They're certainly welcome to enroll in more, but it is not a requirement.
Further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Acknowledgement and acceptance of policy committee review.
So the policy committee met yesterday and reviewed section J, which is students. There were a number, 44 policies to review. The majority of them, we don't feel need any changes. We did have a few with some minor changes, which I will talk about in a minute.
So, I move that we acknowledge and accept the policies, all the J policies as recommended by the policy committee that are listed here. It's a lot of policies, so I'm not gonna read them all.
So I think it was your motion to acknowledge and accept the review of the policy committee
Yeah,
as presented?
as presented, yeah. Thank you.
Second.
Discussion?
I would just like to make a note that a good number of these policies had been recently updated within the last couple of years, so we've seen them.
Further discussion?
I would add, even with such a lengthy list of policies, it wasn't just a matter of a rubber stamp of it. There was a review and a discussion of, in particular, many of the ones that haven't been reviewed over the past year or so. And there was some consideration, but these were all the policies that, following that conversation, Policy Committee is recommending that you continue with the current language.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor? 5-0. First read of amended policies.
So 3 of these policies had just minor changes. JHB truancy and JICH drug and alcohol used by students. We simply are changing the language from students who are in need of support from a student assistant team or a team to appropriate individuals. And JICC, student conduct on buses, we are simply adding the term transportation director. In the past, policy is stated when there's behavior issues on the bus, that would be reported to principals, but we're also adding transportation director. So it can be reported to principals or transportation director. Policy JICIA, weapons, violence, and school safety. We are removing a paragraph that in the current policy allows guns to be locked in vehicles during hunters' breakfasts that are held at the school with board approval. We're asking to remove that entire policy. I'd rather not have guns on school property at all.
Having a motion to approve the first read of the following amended policies as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? 5, consider.
If I may, Mrs. Thomas, with regard to another policy that doesn't appear on your list either as a first read or as a review, with JJE, which is student fundraising activities. One other thing that the Policy Committee discussed last evening and would like to engage the full board in a discussion of is fundraising activities and advertising in schools. And the reason for this is recently Ellsworth School Board has taken an appropriate step by supporting international travel of our students and some of our student groups. And that requires fundraising, and we already have a number of other groups that do fundraising. It was to talk and maybe develop not necessarily a general philosophy, but some thoughts about how some guidelines could be implemented to make sure that there was equity across fundraising activities. So the Policy Committee wanted to engage the board in that conversation. And the other piece with regard to the truancy policy, and there's a compulsory education policy that was approved. The Policy Committee wanted to engage the board in a conversation on attendance and truancy in general. And we'd like to recommend that either at the July 16th or July 24th workshop that those topics of conversation be worked in. And I think the attendance one will be particularly useful because, as you heard me in my report, administrators are going to be talking about that as well.
Item 5, consideration of teacher nomination.
Yes, as you know, at your last board meeting, the board authorized the Personnel Committee to act on your behalf, and they did so with 9 teachers, which you'll take up in item 6. However, we do have one nomination that we're able to bring to the full board this evening because we were just able to come to a conclusion on that yesterday. So what I would like to do is nominate to you for a first-year probationary contract Leslie Billings as a math teacher at Ellsworth High School. I believe Leslie is here this evening. We'll ask her to stand after I get done talking. Leslie comes from Union 76 over in Deer Isle. She's got 7 years of experience in teaching math and special education. 6 of those years predominantly at the high school level, 1 year grades 4 through 8, I believe. Is that correct? She also has a lot of experience, algebra, pre-algebra, algebra 2, and geometry, which is where a number of these courses in her assignment would be, but also a lot of work with advisor-advisee programs, so she'll be a good fit on the grade 9 team. So we'll be recommending or nominating her to you for a first-year probationary contract for the 18-19 school year. Leslie Billings. Because I think you're going to be on camera. So.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation as presented by the superintendent.
Second that?
Discussion? All those in favor? I vote.
And before the board acts on the next step, I believe we have most of our nominees here, but whether you take them as a whole or if you take them individually, as we did with Leslie, I would like to ask them to stand as well so that they can be recognized publicly. Sorry, folks, you didn't know you were going to be on TV this evening, but that's okay. But all of the people on this list here were confirmed by the Personnel Committee, which is Paul and Rob, in a couple of meetings that were held over the past couple of weeks. And your action this evening would be to acknowledge their action on your behalf.
How about if we have them stand and while he reads their biography, and then we
Mhm.
vote on them as a whole? Does that
Mhm.
sound
Sounds
good?
good.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
so. One of my biography pages is missing. You put biography pages in your,
Oh, yeah. That's what you need. There's 2 pages there, you gotta go up.
just need there we go.
Okay.
All right. First one I'd like to recognize would be Joshua McCormick, grade 8 EEMS, so Social Studies and Science. In addition to his educational background, Mr. McCormick's classroom experience, which includes successful experience in a Title I-A classroom and a CTE school in coastal Maine, and his enthusiasm for social studies makes him the top candidate for the EEMS grade 8 position. He has strong content knowledge in social studies and is also eligible for certification in middle level science. Committee believes he'll be a solid addition to the EEMS faculty. Next on the list is Hillary Lissay, who's being has been confirmed as a special education teacher, grades 5 and 6 at Ellsworth Middle School. With 5 years' experience as a special education teacher at Kids Peace New England and Ellsworth, Hillary was the unanimous selection of the building level interview committee. She has experience teaching at all grade levels K through 12 and has demonstrated a solid understanding of special education law and procedures. She has experience differentiating instruction based on student needs and has worked with ed tech staff effectively for the benefit of students. Her experience with a previous private special purpose school employer has prepared her well for a public school education teaching position. References are positive, and the committee feels she'll be a solid addition to the staff at EEMS. And confirmed as an art teacher at Ellsworth High School, Yama Gunell Briggs. Mrs. Gunell Briggs is the top candidate of the building level interview committee as a result of her varied personal background in art education and the arts in general. In her interview, she spoke of using her varied experiences as a means of making connections between the art curriculum and real-life applications of the arts, and to focus on the role that art plays as a means of inquiry, critical thinking, communication, and problem-solving. References were solid, and the committee feels she'll be a solid addition to the EHS and the VPA faculty. And also confirmed would be Ethan Linders as science teacher at Ellsworth High School. Mr. Linders emerged as the Building Level Interview Committee's top candidate based on his years of successful classroom experience and educational background in the life and physical sciences. While his teaching experience thus far has been in special education, his passion lies in the sciences. References indicated he's strong at developing a rapport with his students, has solid content knowledge, and is a solid instructor. He will be a strong addition to the Ellsworth High School staff. And in the meeting held on July 3rd, also confirmed kindergarten teacher at EEMS, Tracy Lowe. Mrs. Lowe was a top selection for the kindergarten position at EEMS based upon her 4 years of successful experience as a pre-K teacher at the Down East School in Bangor. She has experience with the workshop instructional model and has used many of the resources and assessments that are currently used at EEMS. Her references were strong, and the committee feels it should be a strong addition to the kindergarten and EEMS faculty. Confirmed as a media instructor at HCTC, Jamie Anderson. With 12 years of successful experience as the video production, media communications instructor at the Sanford Regional Technical Center, Mr. Anderson was easily the committee's top candidate for the multimedia position at HCTC. Along with 7 years' experience in television production and public relations, Mr. Anderson's experience with the program at Sanford make him a uniquely qualified candidate for this position. The committee feels he'll be a strong addition to the staff at HCTC. Ellsworth High School VPA instructor confirmed was Jasmine Ireland. Ms. Ireland is the top candidate of the Building Level Interview Committee as a result of her varied experience as a theater, dance, choreographer, and serving as advisor and director of many performances in the Ellsworth School Department. She has been a familiar face and has substituted in the VPA program on and off, and is a familiar face with community resources. Again, the committee feels that she'll be a solid addition to the EHS and the VPA faculty. Confirmed as an English teacher at Ellsworth High School, Nathan Cutting. Mr. Cutting was the top candidate of the Building Level Interview Committee. He has 12 years' experience as an English teacher and experience working in alternative education and credit recovery programs for at-risk students. He has experience with project-based learning and collaborates well with his colleagues. He's passionate about teaching, and his references were solid. The committee feels he'll be a strong addition to the faculty at Ellsworth High School. And confirmed as a grade 3 teacher at EEMS, Jennifer Legassi. Ms. Legassi was the Building Level Interview Committee's top choice for one of 2 grade 3 teaching positions at EEMS. Her experiences in several different roles as an ed tech at EEMS and 2 student teaching experiences have helped prepare her to have her own classroom. Her reference was very positive, and the committee feels it should be a very solid beginning teacher at EEMS and a familiar face.
I make a motion to acknowledge the Personnel Committee's action on behalf of the board in hiring the staff that were just discussed with first-year probationary contracts.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Congratulations.
Am I supposed to know something else now?
7.
Okay. Ratification of negotiated agreement between the Ellsworth School Board and the AFSCME Council 93 AFL-CO for the Ellsworth School Department custodians. I need a motion to go into executive session.
If you need to.
So, the Personnel Committee reached tentative agreement with this association, and their membership has ratified it, so we're bringing it to the board tonight to approve it. We can go into executive session if anyone feels the need to, or we can just skip that step and go to ratify the motion.
I don't believe we need
I
to.
don't need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think we did, but,
I make a motion to ratify negotiated agreement between the Ellsworth School Board and the SCME Council 93 AFL-CO for the Ellsworth School Department custodians as recommended by our Personnel Committee.
I second that.
Discussion?
I just like,
I think we're gonna say the same thing, Paul, go ahead.
I just like to mention that I think we all on the Personnel Committee appreciate the professionalism and willingness to just work together with us on the part of the custodians who are representing their team and their union rep. We had a very productive single negotiating session. It was longer than the 2 hours allotted, but we got it all done in one session, and we're very grateful to them for that. Do you want to add anything?
I would echo what Paul just said, but also say that both sides came away feeling very positive, and also that it was a very fair and responsible contract for all parties concerned. So I think it was a very successful process, and credit goes to our Personnel Committee and to the negotiators for the custodians and the custodians union rep. Thank you for their work.
Mm-hmm.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? 5-0. Item 8, negotiations update.
Paul, do you want to address that?
Oh, yes. So we, on our schedule this year was negotiations with, for new 3-year contracts with 3 different associations. We've completed 2 of them, the custodians, which we just ratified tonight. And prior to that, we had done the bus drivers at our last meeting. So we still have 1 to go, and that's the administrative assistants. We've met with them on a number of occasions, and we've got another meeting scheduled tentatively for next week, which we're hoping that we can move that process along and get agreement there pretty soon.
Thank you. Item K, calendar and announcements. The next policy committee meeting, the time to be announced. School board meeting Monday, June 16th,
June?
Monday,
July.
Monday.
Yes, if you recall, the workshop for the month of June was postponed because we did not have topics to discuss. Teresa put out dates of the 16th and the 17th to
Okay.
all of you, and everyone responded that either date would work.
All right.
The date was chosen by default because the administrative assistants had worked with Paul to set up a date of the 17th for the next
Okay.
bargaining session.
Okay.
So my understanding is that at that meeting, there was going to be the board's annual evaluation as one of the topics.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 24th, I might as well go, I'm on a roll.
Yep,
On the 24th, Mickey Sumter will be joining the board to talk about the EBDC's support for education in Ellsworth, and in specifics, HCTC.
And then the next school board meeting will be
That should be Tuesday.
Tuesday, August 14th, 2018, City Hall, Council Chambers at 6:30. Item L is adjournment.
Having no further business, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
It's the quickest meeting ever.
7:09.
It's not, but it's close.